Venezuela entered a new phase of international isolation this week after the last remaining foreign airlines operating flights to the country suspended their services. The move follows escalating security alerts linked to a growing U.S. military presence across the Caribbean and comes at a moment of already fragile aviation connectivity for the country. On Thursday, Copa Airlines and Wingo, both headquartered in Panama, announced they would extend their suspension of flights to Venezuela until December 12. The decision aligns with temporary cancellations issued earlier by at least 10 other airlines. These suspensions were triggered by an alert issued on November the 21 by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA warned of a worsening security situation and an increase in military activity in and around Venezuelan territory. The alert advised all aircraft to exercise extreme caution when flying over the country. Following this warning, major carriers including Iberia, Air, Europa, Plus, Ultra, TAP, Avianca, GOL, LATAM and Turkish Airlines halted their operations. Venezuelan authorities responded by revoking their operating licenses, accusing the airlines of participation in acts of state terrorism. As a result, routes that previously served as critical air corridors into Caracas effectively came to a standstill. Copa Airlines and Wingo were among the last remaining airlines maintaining commercial links with Caracas. But on Thursday, the Colombian state airlines Satena and Boliviana de Aviación also suspended operations. The cumulative effect of these decisions has left Venezuela largely sealed off from commercial flight networks. The backdrop to the aviation restrictions is the ongoing U.S. military operation in the Caribbean, described by Washington as part of a regional anti-drug trafficking strategy. The mission began in August and has included maritime and aerial operations. According to the U.S. Southern Command, more than 20 vessels believed to be involved in drug trafficking have been targeted since the operation began. These actions have resulted in 87 fatalities. The most recent incident occurred on Thursday in the Pacific, where 4 people were killed in a U.S. strike on an alleged drug trafficking boat. Video released by U.S. Southern Command shows aerial surveillance preceding the strike. The clip is silent, contains no narration, and documents the engagement from an overhead platform. The warnings about Venezuela's airspace intensified following statements made by U.S. President Donald J. Trump in recent days. President Trump publicly urged aircraft to avoid Venezuelan airspace entirely, declaring that areas above and near the country should be considered closed due to heightened military risks. At Maiquetía, the country's main international airport outside Caracas, the impact has been immediate. Footage taken after President Trump's warning shows a wide view of the harbour with the airport visible in the background. Activity on the tarmac appears limited, reflecting the decline in commercial operations. Days earlier, a Copa Airlines flight arriving from Panama was filmed taxiing down the runway at Simon Bolivar International Airport. Passengers disembarked normally, and the arrival represented one of the few remaining international connections still operating at that time. In Panama City, video from outside Copa Airlines headquarters shows the airline's main building, underscoring the central role of the carrier in maintaining Venezuela's accessibility. Additional footage from Tocumen International Airport displays travelers checking in, providing context on the broader regional travel environment as airlines reassess operational risks. At Maiquetía, internal footage from early January shows Venezuela's national flag displayed inside the terminal. On a large screen nearby, an arrest warrant features the face of former presidential candidate Edmundo González Urrutia. The warrant offers a reward of $100,000. These materials were on display only days before the inauguration of President Nicolás Maduro. The Venezuelan government has accused several governments and international institutions of interference in domestic affairs. Authorities have also described the suspension of flights by foreign airlines as politically motivated, though they have not provided additional evidence to support those claims. Revocation of airline permits was framed as a defensive measure in response to what officials called coordinated international pressure. More footage from near Maiquetía captures a commercial aircraft positioned on the runway during the days leading up to the inauguration. Inside the terminal, flight information screens show reduced listings. In contrast, images from earlier years reflect the airport functioning at full capacity with a higher number of international departures and arrivals. In Panama, new footage recorded on December 4 shows a Copa Airlines plane parked on the tarmac. These images represent the last days of active coordination before the suspension took effect. Back in Venezuela, a Conviasa aircraft was filmed taking off shortly after President Trump increased his warnings about airspace risks. Conviasa, the Venezuelan state airline, continues to operate domestic and limited international flights, but has been unable to compensate for the loss of major commercial carriers. Archive footage from earlier periods shows a vehicle traveling near a Russian Il-62M Air Force plane stationed at the airport. Although unrelated to the current aviation crisis, the clip highlights Venezuela's prior engagements with foreign military partners. Additional footage from the airport shows long queues of passengers awaiting boarding, reflecting demand during periods when commercial travel was still active. One clip captures the arrival of the first commercial flight from Colombia's state airline Satena, which had recently resumed service to Caracas. Those operations have now been suspended again. A parked Satena aircraft is shown in footage recorded shortly before the broader suspension announcements, underscoring the abrupt nature of the latest developments outside the region. Military activity continues to shape aviation risk assessments. In the North Sea, footage from September shows an F/A-18E fighter jet undergoing pre-takeoff tests on the deck of the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford during NATO's Neptune Strike 25-3 exercise. These operations, while carried out far from Venezuela, illustrate the broader tempo of U.S. military engagement across multiple theaters. The video includes a close-up of an F/A-18E on the carrier deck, preparing for flight operations. The U.S. Southern Command also released video recorded on December 4 inches the Eastern Pacific. It depicts a strike on a vessel that U.S. forces described as an alleged drug trafficking boat. According to the command, 4 people died in that incident. The footage is presented without audio and contains no additional operational details. The cumulative narrative reflects the convergence of aviation disruptions, military risks, and political tension. The FAA's alert, the suspensions by international airlines, Venezuela's retaliatory revocations of operating licenses, and statements by President Trump have combined to produce a near-total halt of foreign commercial flights into the country. For passengers, the consequences are immediate. Travel options have narrowed significantly, and returning to or departing from Venezuela now depends largely on limited regional routes or non-commercial alternatives. For airlines, operational uncertainty remains high as geopolitical conditions evolve. For Venezuela, the isolation represents a widening gap between the country and the international transportation network. With airspace warnings still in effect and military operations ongoing in both the Caribbean and Pacific, the outlook for rapid restoration of flights remains unclear. This situation continues to develop as authorities, airlines, and regional governments assess security conditions and potential next steps. Venezuela remains largely cut off from international air travel as security concerns, military activity, and operational suspensions continue to reshape the country's aviation landscape. Venezuela now faces a near-total halt in international air connectivity, with major airlines suspending operations, regional carriers withdrawing, and U.S. security alerts still in place. As military activity continues across the Caribbean and Pacific, the country remains effectively isolated from global commercial aviation. Authorities, airlines, and regional partners have not indicated when conditions may stabilize, leaving the timeline for restoring regular flights uncertain.